This is the Extra Point Podcast. During this podcast, we will dive deeper into our Sunday teaching and share practical next steps for your faith journey. Now, let's kick off the Extra Point.
Hey, welcome to the Extra Point. I'm Cheryl Ross, the Next Steps in Discipleship pastor here at Southridge Church. And I'm with Scott Beha, our lead pastor. And this past Sunday was kind of a vision Sunday, one of our For the Future Sundays. But you shared a lot, Pastor Scott, about kind of the movement that we're seeing, the way God is moving within our church and in our people and our community. So I want to just kick off by letting you share a little bit more about that.
So I was sharing with people just in the first quarter of this year, we've seen a 15% increase over first quarter last year, and even a little bit more compared to fourth quarter of last year. And so, and that's even when I did those numbers, I even removed Easter from both of those. The numbers stay about the same, even though this Easter was larger than last Easter in some ways. It's about 15% growth, which is as far as attendance goes, which is really, really neat to see. I told the church Sunday, like, we've never in the history of Southridge Church seen 3 Sundays over 500 within a given month ever. We've actually never broke 500 on a non-holiday weekend ever, and we've done it twice in the last month. And then when you throw Easter in there 3 times in the last month, it's pretty wild. But again, it's really. Attendance is a sign that some things is going right, but it's not really the most key indicator. Right. We're probably more excited that we've already hit double-digit baptisms for this year already in the first quarter. We know that we have a couple more already scheduled for this month or in May as well. Seeing people get plugged into small groups, seeing people plugged into serving teams, conversations that are happening about people that are possibly called to ministry. Those are the things that are really exciting. But at the end of the day, I don't want to be one of those people that everything like rises and falls on the attendance.
Right.
But I also don't want to be one of those like, well, attendance doesn't matter. It's like, no, it does, because it's that. However many people you have means how much stuff that you can get done.
Right.
So it does matter, but it's not the key factor that we're solely looking at, like, oh, we just want to get big. It's like, no. The reason why we want to have a big church here is because we want to have more people and more resources to do more good in our community. Yeah. And so that's why we track things like attendance and things like that. But some of those other things are every bit as exciting. We shared a little bit about the For the Future campaign. Like, to see our debt here under $700,000 is pretty remarkable, since it's been over $1 million the whole time that I've been here. And we just had probably in the $25,000 to $30,000 range come in. So we're going to be under $750,000 most likely, depending on the interest on the loan. Probably later this month or early June. Yeah. We're really making some progress. We're already under $750,000. We'll be under 650 probably after this payment is made, and so that's exciting. Again, it's not about just money, but we understand what that money represents is in our budget. It frees up about $70,000 for us to figure out, all right, like, how can we first off set this church up for success in the future, meaning we have to put some of that back at some point to we've got some problems around the building that are going to have to be taken care of, but it is going to open up ministry opportunities. It means that, we could get more interns of people that feel called to ministry, and we could be growing our ministry not through how many people are sitting in our room, but by the people that we're sending out. It means that we can help more when there's issues in local schools and they're asking us for resources. We can help out more with addiction recovery programs and the recovery warriors with the things that they are already doing. It means that we can help Bread of Life Food Pantry make sure that they have everything that they need, like the impact that we'll be able to make with, I think this year's number was around $70,000 that was budgeted just for the mortgage payment. That frees up a lot. But there was some years I remember that our mortgage, with the interest rate and all that, I mean, they were close to $100,000 some years. And so that means like $70,000 to $100,000 a year. I literally, when we think about the fact that our kids' budget is in the $4,000 to $5,000 range, I believe, and youth ministry is probably less than that. Like the way that we could actually fully fund those ministries and help send kids to camp, help send kids to state youth convention, help send people on mission trips. Like like just the ability when the church is financially free of how we can actually bless our community and raise up leaders in the local church to continue to have kingdom impact wherever they're at. Yeah, these are no small things, and they're so worthwhile to give to. And so, there's a lot of momentum and really great things that we're seeing around here. And one of the challenges was all of that's happening without an all hands on deck type of approach right now, and that's kind of what we were hoping yesterday would do is like look at what God's already doing whenever we have this many people engaged. Could you imagine if we could get everybody at that same level of engagement, how what we are doing could be accelerated, what we are doing could be just increased in so many ways, and what that would mean for our church. Yeah. So I think second service yesterday, there was probably a better vision cast around the partnership of it. So I hope that's what people walked away with. But there was really 5 things that we asked of everybody. But the one overarching everything I didn't want people to miss was prayer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like that is what we've talked about as a staff and everything that we have seen make such a big impact over the last, 6 months, 7 months that we've been doing it, however long that's been. And it's been just really cool to see people. I know even initially when we did it, we started seeing more people come up to just kneel and pray. Yeah. But then I think when we added those prayer requests in for other people to also partner in prayer, I saw people coming up to take a prayer request to pray over that I hadn't seen come up before. Yeah. And I just think that it is so cool to see those kind of things. And we're seeing more and more prayer requests come in like we haven't seen before because they know that, they care and they will pray. And we are seeing some things happen. But yeah, so the one challenge was about inviting someone, like somebody that we knew needed to be here. But really the other 4, you used the text from Luke 15 with the friends who carried the man on the mat to Jesus through the roof. And what kept going through my head the whole time is like, we need you to help carry the mat, carry the mat and all of that. And so there were four key things. We'll kind of just go through them one by one. The first was inviting, and something that you said within it when you hit the statistic about how 60% of Christians' friends say that faith never comes up in conversation. But you said this comment, people aren't offended by your message, they're offended by your silence. Yeah.
Well, that even comes from, if you're familiar with, I think he's a magician, Penn Jillette. Him and Penn and Teller used to have this big magic show, I think, out in Las Vegas. He is a pretty ardent, famous atheist. He was having a conversation with someone one time, and he said when Christians try to evangelize to him, he's not offended by it. He said, in fact, he's more offended when people don't, because he said, could you imagine holding a belief that because of my atheism or my rejection of Jesus, that I'm going to spend eternity in hell?
And you're okay with that.
And you don't feel compelled to tell me, even if I'm going to reject it or even if I don't believe it. Like he said, it's far more offensive for them to not say anything and just let me go on my way while they think I'm on my way to hell without ever saying anything. So like he's like, I'm far more offended by them not saying anything than them kind of confronting me in my sin and my atheism and trying to show me some hope. It's like, seriously, I mean, could you imagine, like, watching someone drive towards a cliff, and you knew that there was a cliff there, and they didn't, and you didn't say anything?
Right.
That person, how could we possibly do that? And that's essentially the worldview of the Christian is like, apart from Jesus, everyone's headed off that cliff. So how in the world we could just sit by? And then I never in my preaching want to make it all about the future either, because there's also a more immediate thing that, and we talked about this on Easter Sunday. It's like there's also people that like they're just right now. They need what God has to offer, not just in the future when they fall off the cliff. They need it right now because in some way, shape, or form, they're probably falling off the cliff in their own personal lives right now.
Yeah.
Like not just eternally, but like immediately they need what Christianity has to offer as well.
Well, and I think through research that I've like done as I took over the First Impressions ministry and stuff was that I think it was 5 Ds. They said that you usually have new guests come in because of its displacement, like they've moved in some way. It's disaster of some kind has happened in their life, and they're looking for that hope. They're looking for those things. It's divorce. It's I don't remember the other 2, but it's things like that. When those things happen, people are looking for somewhere to go.
Absolutely.
And it has always been something kind of in the background of, well, the church offers hope. The church offers, the local church offers this. So I go. And what I think is great about the invitational aspect of that is I may not be the best at telling somebody all the things or explaining the Bible and why it's reliable and trustworthy. But I don't have to if I can just get them here.
Yeah.
Because I know that our lead pastor does a fantastic job at those things.
Yeah.
And so like the invitation doesn't mean that you have to tell him these things. It's, hey, I know you're going through some stuff. Why don't you come to my church? Because like you're struggling in your marriage. We're going to do a relationship. We're in the middle of a relationship series. I think it could really help you guys. We're, getting ready to do a thing on prayer, and you're saying that you feel like God never answers your prayers. Why don't you come and hear what our pastor has to say about this? It's those kind of things that like you don't have to be the one to say all the things if you can just get them here. Now, you should continue to build that relationship with the person and that type of stuff. But like the invitation is just getting them to the place where they might be able to hear those things.
Yeah.
And
there's it's huge. And I said here, most people find inviting people to church to be really daunting. But what I was sharing on Sunday was like, it doesn't have to be like that. Like first, make it personal. I think that there are some Christians that think because they shared a social media post that their church put out there that's evangelism. It's not. It's good advertising for the church, so you should keep doing that. But that's not personal evangelism. I don't feel when I'm scrolling through and someone has just shared something from an organization, I don't feel personally invited to that whatsoever.
No.
I feel informed about it, which is fine. I don't feel personally invited. There's a drastically different there's a drastic difference between being personally invited and being informed. And so people want to be personally invited, so just make it personal. Just if you have someone that you want to invite, send them a text.
Yeah.
Give them a phone call. And then make it easy. Like, people do not know what to expect. There are, like, because of the previous generation, there are a lot of people right now that have never walked, they didn't grow up in church. And I know that for church people, that's hard for them to believe. They're like, well, what in the world were they doing? It's like, listen, not everyone was raised in church, and some of them have never been. So you have to make it like, hey, this is what to expect. This is what to wear. Like, we get that all the time. Like, when we're talking, we don't have anything to wear. I go, just make sure everything's covered up, and that's all we really care about. Like, you don't have to wear anything specific here.
Yes.
They don't know. They're like, okay, you're going to be singing songs. Why are we standing and singing? Where else, anywhere in the world, do people just stand and sing?
At a concert. Maybe.
Not even at a concert, because the person on stage is meant to do the standing and singing. And maybe you'll stand out there and sing at a concert, but like it's different. Like when you this is like everyone is singing in unison, and then it's like there's words up on the screen to where, like, if you're singing at a concert, it's because you already knew the song.
Yes, and you're a fan.
You're here, they're like, the words are up on the screen, so therefore they expect me to sing.
And people half the songs talk about blood, or
and then we're talking about blood, and we're talking about like a cross, and this guy is just like, there's a lot of crazy stuff that if you were not raised in the church or been around it, like, you'd be just like, what in the world is going on in here? And then this guy gets up and everyone just sits down and shuts up and listens to him for 40 minutes. Where else do you even see that in the world?
Yeah.
Maybe at conferences that you go to for work, but even that, those people aren't claiming to be teaching from God's word. Right. That's such a different thing for people. So just make it easy on them and go, here's what to expect. I'll meet you at the front door. That way it's not overwhelming. I'll help get your kids checked in. I'll help you find out. You'll get to sit with me, so I'm not going to leave you on your own.
Yes.
And then, hey, offer them something. Hey, and then I'll take you to lunch afterwards, and we can talk about your experience, and I can answer any questions you have. Yeah. Just make it easy.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's also true for people who they might have been raised in church, but it's been a long time since they've been.
Yeah.
And their church may be very different. Their church might be the church that you have to wear a dress and a suit and there's no instruments. So it's very different compared to what they maybe have experienced before.
Yeah, the guy on stage is wearing jeans. What's happening?
The couple, my husband invited a couple this past week, and it was so cool because he had no idea what you were speaking on this week. But he did a lot of the things that you said, but that just comes naturally to him. Like he is hospitality is pretty high on him and that kind of stuff. But like it just came up in conversation. He was sitting at a restaurant outside at a table by himself. They were at the table behind him. He got pulled into conversation by the manager of the restaurant. And then, like, they ended up inviting him over to the table to sit with them. Like, they're probably out on date night or whatever. And I'm like, only you could get invited to somebody else's date table.
This is what I was talking about. Don't make it weird. Like, he didn't, like, push his way into that.
No. And they talked about all kinds of stuff until, like, they asked what his wife did. And he said, well, actually, she's a pastor at our church. And so then they started asking about our church and what it's like, and then sharing their previous experience with church. Yeah. And so he was able from the front end to say, like, no, we're very different than that. Like, you won't find that here. Like, and you don't have to do this. And like, and so it was really cool because it just came up in conversation, and that's what you got to look for. I think that's like make the most of every opportunity. Like if you're present in the conversation and in those things, and you're listening to the Holy Spirit or just whatever, like it often comes up.
Yeah, we make it so hard. Make it easy. Listen, my daughter invited someone to a Christmas program 2 years ago. This family is now 2 of our major children's volunteers. When I was a kid, I invited one of my friends from school to church. And I'm not exactly, I wasn't even a Christian in elementary school. I hated church. I just wanted my friend to come with me. By the end of it, there was 2 pews, whole rows filled with their family members that had come because I invited one person, a kid, to come to church. Make it personal, make it easy, and do not make it weird. Yeah. And it's like, if you don't understand what that means, here's this. So on Sunday, we had you write people's names down. Here's what being weird would be. Go up and go, hey, I put your name on a list. I'm praying for you to come to my church. That's weird, okay? Don't do that. Yeah. Just be normal and natural. Do life with people, and then when the Lord gives you that opportunity to turn it to this, then take your opportunity. But don't be weird and trying to force it in. Like you're talking to them, and they're like, "You're at the ball field. It's hot out here. And it's hot in hell too." Let me. Hey, don't be weird, okay? Not everything has to be like that. I get that their salvation is life or death, but if you're weird, you're going to make the job of inviting so much more difficult.
Yeah. And so that's one corner of the mat. Another corner of the mat is serving. Yeah. And I know that for a lot of people, there's a lot of navigation, I think, that has to take place, and mental mindset shifts that has to take place, because a lot of people, they see Sunday as a rest day, and it's like, oh, I just can't get there that early. But it's like, whoa, hold on. You get your kids to school before we're telling you to show up. And so there are things like that have to change. But the thing that always gets me the most with serving is that, and you said this, is that you grow spiritually and get connected to other people in a way that you don't any other way than when you're serving.
What's happening is through serving. This happens through giving also. These are 2 tangible ways that the church stretches you to put your faith into action in a training ground situation before you go and do it in your community.
Yeah.
And like just inherently, for you to go and serve at your church means that you're putting other people before yourself, which fights against everything in us.
Yes.
All of our selfish nature, all of our, this is all about me in our culture. To go and to serve other people, that will grow you spiritually because it is breaking the back of selfishness and self-serving nature within you. Like it's breaking its back. So that's how you, and then like, if you end up in a kids ministry or youth ministry, you're going to get stressed because you're going to have to actually take your faith serious. It's the way you can help disciple those kids. Or maybe you end up as a teacher or boom, you end up as a life group leader. Now all of a sudden you're being stretched because you're responsible for people. Or maybe you end up on the production team. Yeah. This is what happened to one of our old pastors, if I'm not mistaken. He ended up on the production team at their church. So he was running their slides. So he had to sit through their service 2 or 3 times a weekend. And the more that he would hear the same sermon, but he was having to hear it multiple times a weekend. And he said the more that was happening, the more he could tell he was learning and growing. Serving, that's what it does for you.
Yes.
Like outside of my one point, and I know this is kind of like, it feels heavy-handed, but like I do find, and I don't mean this to be condescending, and if you're not there yet, I get it, but I'm just saying, like, I do find it ridiculous that you would come to a church where all of these people are sacrificing to make sure that you have a good experience, and then after a couple of months not eventually reciprocate that. That seems like to me, like, I don't know that you're listening to or that faith is having the desired effect if at some point it doesn't turn around and go like, oh, yeah, I need to give back.
Yeah.
Like, for me, I go, that should help, but I get it. Sometimes people will only do it if there's something in it for them. And there is.
Yes.
Like the blessing of watching other people experience what you have gotten to experience, I promise will accelerate. Plus, just looking at people that serve, like everyone in our world is looking for connection. When you serve side by side with someone, that's how you find that connection. That's how you find those meaningful relationships. And so, yes, you spiritually grow. You get connected to people that will help you spiritually grow and create community. It's other than the fact that, like, to not do that is so selfish, which is so counter to the message of Jesus, the spiritual and community benefits just are immense.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's good to just share it every now and then, because I do think a lot of people come from a lot of different backgrounds as far as church goes. Yeah. And like as a teenager, I mean, I remember being told they had plenty of people working in Sunday school. They didn't need my help. Like, and so a lot of times it's like, if you come from a place where mainly it's the pastor and a few other leaders and that's it, it's hard to get out of that mindset of, oh, there's a place for me to actually play a role here.
Yeah, we've heard that a lot. And you
want me to. And so, like, I mean, I think it's the same way, like, you know, Pastor Jared, even when he first began, he's like, I'll come change the batteries to have something to do. You know, like, I think that often it's breaking down some of those walls that I feel like you've been fighting really hard for, like as far as even just theologically and doctrinally within people, because we all come from a lot of different backgrounds. There were, you know, well-meaning people that maybe taught things differently or did things different than what we do here. And we want you to find your purpose, to discover your purpose and find out that you have a role to play within the body.
Yeah, and we've heard that from so many people that they're like, we didn't even know that we could get involved, because at our old church, you just showed up. That's all they ever, like, maybe they wanted you to move some chairs every once in a while, but they didn't have, they weren't asking you to really do ministry. And it's like, nah, we're in Ephesians 4 church.
Yes.
We are here. The God has given the church pastors, apostles, prophets, teachers, and all this to equip the body to do ministry. We expect the people of our church to do ministry because that's the way God has wired them, and that's the way that God stretches and grows them.
And the thing that you said, and then we'll move on, but I wanted to share this. The thing that you said is that about this too, is that the more that you get involved in what's going on here, the more you'll get out of it. I find that to be so true, because I believe that, like, once you take ownership of something in that way, like, it's just different, right? Like you're going to care more for your house when you're trying to pay that mortgage, right? Like when you rent and you just got somebody to come fix it, it's like, I don't care. Like I might not spend that much money on fixing it up or making it look nice or like whatever, because it's not mine.
I just had a conversation with someone recently. They were seeking some spiritual guidance, and they felt like in their spiritual walk they couldn't get past these barriers. And so I said, well, like, what do you mean barriers? I mean, are you talking about like slipping into old habits and sin? He's like, no, just like it just feels like. And I said, well, tell me about your spiritual disciplines. He's like, I pray, read the Bible every day. Good spiritual disciplines, regular at church. He said, I just don't feel like. I said, I already know what the issue is. I said, if you take a body of water and everything flows into it and nothing ever flows out of it, that body of water will eventually become stagnant. And that's why so many people in church that do not give, do not serve, do not participate, they only ever show up, they end up growing stagnant because everything is flowing into them. This is the problem with consumerism in the church. Yes. Everything flows into them. Nothing flows out of them. So eventually they get stagnant and the water turns bad and they never ultimately get where God wants them to be. I just had this conversation with someone last week. I was like, this is exactly what it is. Like, and I've literally, I'm not one that ever feels like the Lord like shows pictures to or anything like that, but I could see a body of water with all of this input coming in. So I was like, you're not living in sin. You got spiritual disciplines. This is the issue. Nothing's flowing out. This is how you solve that. This is how you break through. And it was like a moment where it's, yes, this is what this must be it, because everything else seems to be in alignment. And so that's the second area of the mat. The third one, I don't want to harp on too much because I know that I got a lot of it on Sunday, but giving is such a, I don't even want to call it a necessary evil, because it's really not an evil. It's just like serving. If we have a $1,500 power bill here in a month and you've been here 2 or 3 times and we're discipling your kids and all of this, truth be told, you should share in that. That's just, and to not share in that, again, we go back to, that is just the height of selfishness. To go, oh, no, we expect everyone else in the church to pay for the bills, but we will show up and just enjoy what's going on. It's like, it's just so counter to the message of Jesus. And I don't know everyone's financial situations. I'm not trying to call you selfish if you're in a tough spot. Everybody has their own story, and they could come and talk to me about it. But if I'm not real, what will happen is if I'm not real upfront about giving, people that don't have a good excuse and are just naturally stingy because they haven't surrendered that part of their life over to the Lord will continue to be stingy. Whereas we could have conversations, like, because I know inevitably when I talk about giving, someone is in a tough spot in their life, and they'll get mad and they'll stop coming to church. They'll send me a nasty email or whatever it might be, and I'll go, if you think that I would look at your finances and see what's going on in your life, and you don't think that maybe you're an exception to what we were talking about, I'm trying to get a hold of the heart of the person that's not in that situation, but is just stingy and refuses to allow God to work through their finances. That's who I'm. It's kind of like the whole divorce thing. People get upset when I'm talking about divorce and go, if you think that I'm talking to you, you don't understand. Like, if you are, you're making $1,000 a month and you're giving the church $20 a week or whatever, that may be the most that you can do. That may just be what it is. Like, okay, that's not, like, we're not talking to you. I'm not talking to people that have good hearts and good intentions and are just in tough financial situations. That if your situation was different, that you would be doing something different. I'm talking to people that are literally, and this is not even just in our church, I'm talking about people that are living large and are holding everything for themselves. That's the target audience. Like, so again, if it came off like, oh man, everyone's supposed to, I don't even think that there's a one size fits all. That's what I was talking about. Tithing was an Old Testament thing, although I do think that should be our guide. Like, if we go, okay, this is what God asked the Israelites to do, then Jesus comes along, and every time that he talks about the law, he ups the ante. I don't know that means that we should be given 20% of our income. I'm just saying I think that we take the law, understand that Jesus always calls us beyond that, but then ask him within our certain situation,
Yes.
But don't allow that as an out to go, oh, well, then it's okay to give $30 a month.
Right.
If you're making $200,000 a year, you give $30 a month.
Yeah.
Let's not. Well, that's what me and the Lord came up with. I don't know that you and the Lord came up with $30 a month if you're making $200,000 a year. I don't even. If you're making $200,000 a year, I don't know that the Lord came up with the idea for $300 a month. To be honest,
Right.
that still feels a lot like you.
Yeah.
Because I know when God's involved, people are stretched. And giving is one of those things. Again, how you grow spiritually is if you don't give at a level that it's uncomfortable, then you don't actually reap the benefit of giving, because giving is meant to put you out on a limb to where you have to trust God. And our problem in the Western church, especially here in America, so many people are so wealthy. Some of them could be a top giver here at this church, and it would not even affect them financially. And until we give at a level that it actually, we go, you know what? We don't have cable in our house, or we had to say no to this vacation. Until you're giving at that level, you're not actually reaping the spiritual benefits of giving whatsoever.
Yeah.
My family and I are not wealthy people. We're not destitute, but I know that we go without certain things because of our decision to give.
Yes.
And that's how you know that you're giving at a sacrificial rate. Is I'm not saying that you should give to the point where you're like, well, we can't buy the kids snacks for school this week.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Oh, we can't take a week off of work to go have a week out in the woods or something. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it should cost you something. Maybe you cancel the 4th trip to Mexico this year. That's what I'm saying. It should cost you something. All right, I'm not gonna get MLB TV and watch every Cubs game this year. So it should be that.
Yeah.
It should cost you something if you're really giving generously. And I don't think that most people have ever even sniffed the level at which God could actually use them in their finances, which is why I said most people at this church don't even get to $5,000 in a given year.
Yeah.
I mean, we only had, if I'm remembering these numbers off the top of my head, we only had 20 giving units last year break the $5,000 mark. Maybe it might have been the $10,000 mark, but I'm almost certain it was the $5,000. 20 families that carried the majority of the load here. And I don't think that our younger congregants understand. Those people are phasing out. They are hitting retirement age, which means they're going to a fixed income or they're moving away. And if this next generation that is at this church right now does not find some supernatural generosity, then they are going to ultimately affect the ability for this church to accomplish the vision that God has given it.
Yeah.
Because eventually there has to be a handing off of the torch from the older generation that's paying all the bills to that next generation. And so we're just looking for people to step up.
Yeah. And so the final corner, of the mat was sacrifice. And I think that it is, because what you just said there, I think we see that with even our kitchen team right now, the ladies who are the main core of our kitchen team, they're getting to that point where they're not going to be able to do it very much longer. And so we've been talking about who can we bring in, some younger people that we can bring in and train so that way they can take this over, take the torch and continue it on, because it's, coffee isn't, some people might not think it's make or break, but I think it's part of who we are here at Southridge Church. We have the coffee flowing, and we will have stains on our carpet, but that's okay because that's who we are. We want you caffeinated and awake and alert for what it is that God has for you on those Sundays. But I think it's in multiple areas. When I think of sacrifice and picking up the continuing to carry the torch or carry the mat, is in multiple areas of. Our security team lead, he is waiting for another that next person to come and take that over from him. He still wants to serve in the ways that he can, but it's those type of things that I think sometimes we forget that somebody has been doing this for a long time, and we need to come alongside and step into that, so that way they can then go into their season of what's next as well. I don't think they'll be done serving any of the people that I'm thinking of. I know that they'll continue to do things. They'll just do it a little bit differently. And I think that is incredibly important for us to just remember, it's worth the sacrifice of getting up a little early on a Sunday to come and see people meet Jesus and get baptized and marriages restored and all of those things. And I think, like you said, you ended with the question, what's it worth to you?
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, to think you said something about, hey, we won't be able to stay here if this doesn't happen. Yeah. And I sat there like with my heart breaking, thinking of all the people who we might not reach if this doesn't happen.
Yeah. Like this. I know it's easy to see a church that's running $400 to $500, has a $600 to $1,000 budget, and going, oh, they're going to be there forever. And you go, I don't think. Yeah. Like I work for the State Church of God, man. We are closing churches left and right.
Yeah.
It feels like it just and that's just in our movement across every denomination. Like churches are just closing left and right, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that when things were good, they didn't think about the future. Yeah, they didn't start thinking about the future until things got too bad to do anything about it. Yeah. And I refuse to be in that situation. Yeah. Like I want this church to always exist. Yeah. I want this church to go through a new cycle of life. Because churches go through life cycles. I want this church to continue. But there are some systemic things here that people are uninformed about, largely because they don't come to the business meeting, some because they're new. But like there are some systemic things here. Now, I'm not saying that within 10 years this church could be gone. That would be pretty difficult. No, but I'm talking about 20 years. I'm talking about 30 years, 40 years. Yeah. What does this look like? Whenever Scott, Cheryl, Jared, Anna, Jessica, when we're all gone, are we giving this to the next group better than what we got it? Yeah. And I'm not saying that we got anything bad. I'm just saying we want to improve upon what we were given. And that's what For the Future has always been about. Yeah. But it will take all of us, a concerted effort across the board, to do these 4 things, to pray, to sacrifice, and we'll know when we're finished that we got to be a part of something amazing because we said yes. Yeah. And I pray more and more people would hop on board knowing that your life really can matter because you said yes to God and He did something amazing in your midst. Yeah. Because the last thing that you want to do is to miss what God is doing and get to the end of your life and realize, and we had a chance there for a while to really be a part of something special. Yeah. But we were too concerned with going to the lake. We were too concerned with having a boat. We were too concerned with, sports or choirs or whatever it was that we were too concerned with work. We were too concerned with having designer this or that. And it's like, it would suck to look back and go, oh man, we missed an opportunity because we didn't want to say no to ourselves so we could say yes to God. Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, we are starting a new series this coming Sunday on prayer. So we'll be back here again next week with another extra point and some practical next steps for your prayer life.
Thanks for tuning in to The Extra Point. Be sure to subscribe to the Southridge Church podcast and tune in every Wednesday for another episode of The Extra Point.